All right, so welcome after the lunch, guys. I hope you had lunch, and yeah, let's move on with Udaan series. Udaan basically is an initiative of Gabriel Books with a vision of enabling a lot of students and a lot of young writers to start writing, and that's why we have world's most successful authors coming and sharing their experience. Well, the next author who's going to come up is somebody who is an Indian, but he stays in Paris, and we could not get him live is because of the time difference. Yet he was very, very generous in going ahead and sharing a lot of his experience, which I'll be playing for you. Now, speaking about Olivier Lafont, he is an French author, screenplay writer, and an actor living in Paris. His fantasy novel Warrior was published by Penguin Random House and was shortlisted for a lot of awards. The first film he made, an Indo-French comedy, was opened at the Toronto Film Festival, and it also bagged him a lot of awards. He is somebody who's acted in movies in Hollywood, in Indian movies, including the Three Idiots and Guzaarish. So let me not extend the introduction. Let's go ahead and hear the experience of Olivier directly from him. All right. So stay tuned, and if you're excited, go ahead and put something exciting on the comments on the YouTube, and let's get started. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, today we have our wonderful guest, Olivier Lafont. And, hi, Oliver.
Hello, lovely to be here to meet you all.
All right, absolute pleasure. So in this series of Udaan, where we are talking to a lot of established authors, and who watching this are basically budding authors or students who, and the whole idea of this is to go ahead and build a hope and, build a lot of authors in India. All right, so that's the entire motive, and I'm so glad that you were able to pull out time of your busy schedule and come in and be with us for this session. So thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. So I have a few basic questions for you that I'm gonna shoot it out at you, and then after which probably you will have some time for you to go ahead and interact with the audience by giving them a lot of information about writing and your experience and whatnot. So let me start with some some of the basics. You stay in Paris, okay?
Yes.
And you're a well-known personality in India. So how do you define the connection from Paris to India?
Oh, well, for me, that connection is very it's very integrated. I'm actually half French and half of Indian origin, and my family moved from France to Delhi when I was 7 years old, and then I lived continuously in India for 30 years. I spent 15 years in Delhi, did university in the US for 4 years, then came back and was in Bombay for 15 years. So for me, I've always growing up in India, I've always been very Indian, but I've always been very mixed because it was kind of France at home. I went to an international school in Delhi, which was very American, and then we were living in India. So I have a mix of the three cultures, in fact, French, American, and Indian. And so for me, it's kind of all seamlessly integrated in the particular way it's configured for me. So for me, it's been very fun to be able to play with my culture. Also being an artist, it's the stuff of which a lot of your art is cultural. So having that mix is good fun, and it comes to me. These are my origins. So I bathe in it, so to speak. I'm constantly living the cultures.
Awesome. And okay, so what age did you start writing, and what inspired you to become a writer?
I started writing around the age of 9. What inspired me? There was, I think, before that, when I was a kid in class, our teachers would read different works of fiction. There was a book called Redwall by Brian Jacques, which our teacher read to us, which I really enjoyed. And then that summer, my family, we would holiday back in France from India, and we took a trip to the UK. And in the UK, I bought a set of books, The Chronicles of Prydain by Lloyd Alexander, which is set in a fiction. It's a fantasy work of fantasy, but set in that whole Welsh Arthurian kind of space. So traveling in the UK and going to the Lake District, there was a very lovely reflection of the material I was reading with the land I was traveling through, and that reading those books really kind of just I just had like an epiphany at that age. I had an epiphany. I was like, this is, well, one of the things, but this is the thing I'm going to do. I have to write. It was just clear to me that this is what I was going to have to do. So yeah, so then I came back to India after the holidays, and it was like, I'm going to start writing.
Awesome. So there's a message for people who are watching. A lot of students is, I always advise students not to overthink, not to say, okay, only when this perfect thing I'll start writing. We all are extremely, we can imagine a lot of stuff. And I think going for your story also, when you can imagine, just put on words, and that becomes a story, right? Yes. So here's a question from one of the students. Okay, the question is: you've written a lot of books, the series, and which book is closest to your heart, and why?
Ooh, that's very difficult to answer. They're all so dear to me, and they're all very different. So it's like being asked to pick, like which is your favorite child. It's like, oh, if you've got a bunch of kids, it's like I can't. But I'll say the one that is closest to I think my identity would be Warrior. That was my first book. It was far closer to how I work and operate and think and feel on the inside. I like Upan Leela, which is my latest book, is a much lighter book. So it's for me, it was so much fun to write it. That's dear to my heart in that way. So yeah, that'll have to be my answer.
Absolutely. Sorry. I think you defined the answer in the first line. It's like when you have 3 4 children, you cannot say this is my favorite child. Everyone's a child. So it's perfectly fine. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now there's one more interesting question that's come from one of the other student, and students at times gives you very tough questions. So So okay, the next question is: you speak so many languages, a lot of languages. So do you also write in other languages?
I do. I write fiction in English, and I write screenplays in English and in French.
Awesome. So you're also a script writer, right? I'll come on that, yes. Right? Okay. All right. So I want to focus on one of your best-selling books, which is Warrior. Okay, and I think that was nominated for Tibor Jones South Asia Prize. Okay,
that's correct.
So here's a very interesting question. So when you were writing the book, did you already assume, or did you already plan it in a way that it goes for a nomination? Or did it happen the other way, that you wrote it and eventually it went for a nomination?
No, I didn't have any nomination award, nothing in mind. In fact, I had written it probably around, many years before it actually got published. I'd written it a long time before, and then it just, I got busy with a lot of other things. I was writing it in a staggered way over several years. So yeah, no, it had nothing to do with nominations. I wrote the book, I finished it, and then as I was, looking to get it published, the Tibor Jones South Asia Prize came around, and it was submitted. So that's how that happened. Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. I think there's a deep message for the audience, and the deep message is do not write, keeping these things in your burden on your shoulder, saying it has to go for nominations or it has to win the prize. You write to express yourself out. And one of the other authors that I was talking to, he said, writing is such a hobby that when you start writing, there are a set of people who will start following you. There are a set of audience who will love the way you write. And and that's a message that I would like to leave with the students. So start writing is don't worry about too many complications or don't super complicated. Okay.
Yeah.
So my next question is, you're also a script writer. So how do you differentiate between a book writing and a script writing?
Well, they're really completely different activities. They're completely different professions, in fact, although there are overlaps which really come more from passion, because the thing for very quick differences, with a book you can get inside the mind of the person, and with film you never can. With film, the best you can do is very precisely suggest what is going on inside the person's mind, because you're watching it from the outside, and then you have films that play with that play with what's called a false narrator, which is they make you think that what's going on in the person's mind when something completely different is happening. So you can never change that, where with a book you can actually get into the person's mind. There's also what used to be, now with films like the Marvel films and special effects being what they are, there used to be a time when books were limitless in scope, where you start from, write this one particular detail, I'm here writing a thing, and suddenly you move to outer space, a million light years away, something is going on, You couldn't quite do that with films, with special effects being what they were up until recently, So there's that whole thing of scale and thing, because even there are budgetary constraints for film. When you write a screenplay, you kind of know the budget, and you can't really go too extravagantly with that. Whereas a book, you can go anywhere, do anything can happen. So that is one immediate thing. Then even in terms of how you write it, the structuring, basically a book generally is very open-ended. You can write a book of any length. You can, chop up your chapters any way you want. You can have 100 chapters of 3 pages each. You can have 3 chapters of 100 pages each. It's really entirely up to you. You have that liberty. You are this very free creator. With screenplay writing, it's completely different, because there is the constraint of, you have to make a film that is 1.5 to 2.5 hours long, depending on what kind of film it is. There are certain themes and ways of approaching a subject that have to be respected, or at least considered when you write a story. It has to be structured in a particular way, so the beginning of the film has to be like this, and the middle of the film has to be like this, and then you have to end it in a particular way. And there are very specific steps and things that have to be taken care of in terms of craft throughout. So it's far more structured in many respects than book writing, And then ultimately you have to know your screenplay is then going to go to a director, to a production house. Actors are going to take it and, interpret it, sometimes change lines. So the screenplay you write may end up being something very different from what ends up on the screen. So yeah, these are the broad differences that I can just throw out at you.
All right, here's a quick question. What do you love doing the most? The script writing or the book writing?
Again, you're asking me to make hard choices. I think book writing is shall we say, closer to my heart because of that free creation aspect. It's I can go anywhere and do anything. With screenplay, you know that it's going to be transformed at some point into something else. And even while you're writing it, there are certain expectations that you have to respect. A director, if you're writing a comedy, you kind of have to stay in that comedy genre, although you can, mix in other things. So that it's a work that is going to be transformed by other artists as well. So for me, book writing really has that lovely, untouched feeling.
Right. So, so I guess so that says that a lot of audience can actually start with book writing. There's no restriction. I think it all requires is just grab a pen, a nice book, and start writing. And as you move ahead, you become more refined, and you become a better author, a better writer. Okay, your recent book, Hope and Leela. Okay, so why don't you share a little of its settings?
Okay, well, the setting of Oop and Leela, as kind of implied in the title, it's Oop and Leela lost in the Caribbean Sea, which is, I have my copy right here. It's the Caribbean Sea is inspired from the Caribbean, the Caribbean Sea, which is in North America, and it was the setting of what is called the Golden Age of Piracy. Well, the Golden Age of Piracy was a much broader setting, but generally when we think of pirates, and the Pirates of the Caribbean being the film series being one of the prime examples, you think of the pirates in the Caribbean Sea who were preying on the European trade going back and forth from Europe to the New World, which was the Americas. So the setting was that pirate world, but the thing is, although most people think of the Caribbean, when they think of that, the Golden Age of Piracy happened all across the world. And around the same time, in the 17th to 19th century, there were pirates everywhere in the world because the European trade was happening not just with the Americas, but also with Asia, with China, India, Africa. All of these were major trade hubs. So all these ships, these merchant ships, were going back and forth across the oceans. And therefore, pirates were preying on the ships. So that was the setting. That's the setting, and I set it in. Although it's called the Caribbean Sea, the setting is actually the Arabian Sea. So it's that mix of Caribbean, Arabian, Caribbean. So the setting is really the Arabian Sea from the coast of Africa to the coast of India, and that whole that just little encapsulated thing. And there's a map illustration that at some point you might be able to put up to show what it's like. And I've taken that map and I've just angled it slightly, so you get a very different feel in terms of the perspective. It feels like a very different region, but it's inspired from that.
Fantastic. So my recommendation to all the audience who are watching this is to go ahead and get a copy of your own of the book, so that you can go ahead and enjoy the book. And here's the last game that I'm going to play with you is I want you to actually ask the viewers to grab a copy for themselves in different languages that you know.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I guess English. Okay, guys. Well, here's Oop and Leela Lost in the Caribbean Sea, and I believe it's available in stores. So please, if you'd like to, please go ahead and pick up your own copy.
That's English. Okay.
That's English, yes.
Yeah.
And then in French, bonjour les amis. Alors voici mon livre. Oop and Leela Lost in the Caribbean Sea. Il devrait être dans tous les magasins de livres près de vous. Alors, si ça vous intéresse, je vous prie d'aller acheter une copie pour vous. Voilà.
Awesome. All right. Hindi.
Oh my God, this is going to be a task. It's been quite a while since I've I moved from India, and I haven't spoken that much Hindi. So let's try this. नमस्ते दोस्तों, कैसे हैं? ये मेरी किताब है Oop and Leela Lost in the Caribbean Sea. मेरे ख्याल से बुक स्टोर्स में होंगे, तो अगर आपको एक कॉपी चाहिए तो वहां जाके एक कॉपी खरीद लीजिए. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey. I'll also do on your behalf. I will do it in Tamil. Okay.
Oh yes, please.
Okay, let me give. It's nice to converse in English and listen to little French and then Hindi and then suddenly shift to Tamil. But let me give it an attempt. Okay. You show the copy and I'll be able to point it to that. Okay. Okay. நண்பர்கள் இது வந்து இவரோட latest book, Hope and Leela, and one of the best sellers ஆகப்போகுது. ஸோ இது வந்து உங்களோட நியரஸ்ட் புக் ஸ்டோர்ல அவைலபிளா இருக்கும். ஸோ ஒரு காப்பி எடுத்து நீங்களும் படிங்க அண்ட் இதை என்ஜாய் பண்ணுங்க. Okay, so that's the best attempt I could do for you. All right. All right.
Thank you.
It was amazing. It was amazing asking you so many questions. Now I'll leave you with the audience so that you can go ahead and talk to them, inspire them, give them tips, and it's all yours. So I'm gonna go aside. You'll not see me on the screen. Okay. So all the best. And towards the end, I'll come in again. Okay. So it's all yours. So let me go ahead and give you the entire screen. One moment.
So I guess it's all you guys and me now. So okay, so Hope and Leela, basically it's a fantasy adventure with which is inspired from our real history of pirates. And like I said earlier in the Q&A, it's the Arabian Sea with a twist, and because of the whole pirate history angle, it's also the Caribbean, which is really the main pirating setting that people think of from our history. And it's the story of two kids who get transported into this slightly different pirate world, and they're brother and sister, Hoop and Leela, and they get magically transported into this new and different world and go on this crazy little adventure. So just wanted to take you think that, I mean, basically, pirates are a very known trope and theme in popular culture, especially with the Pirates of the Caribbean films and all. The question is, what are pirates? So I mean, pirates, very simply, it's just a group of persons, men and women. In history, there have been a lot of women pirates as well. It's a group of persons who decide to go and steal and take what they want, but they operate on ships because ships give you a particular advantage where, so obviously they have to be working on a coast or a river. You can go and then you can sail away on a ship, and if the people you steal from don't have a ship, they're stuck. They can't be pursued, etc. So it's a very particular mode of operation. The golden age of piracy, which was from 1650 to about 1720, is what was really built on the European international trade. So when the European nations had colonialized and imperialized much of the world, or were in the process of doing that, there was a lot of trade. So a lot of goods and money was going back and forth from Europe to the New World and the rest of the world. And that's why people think of the Caribbean, because the New World was unknown. So all the goods, the resources, the money that was there was a lot of stuff that was untouched, that was then taken back to Europe. So a lot of piracy was based in the Caribbean and preyed on these merchant ships, And the thing is that there have always been pirates in history. I mean, there are even pirates today. The most known pirates operate on the east coast of Africa. But there have always been pirates. Vikings are pirates, essentially. They would go from Scandinavia and they'd raid all along the coast of Europe. The oldest historical mention of pirates was in ancient Egypt in the 14th century before the Christian era. The pharaoh Akhenaten, it went on, there's a historical record of him complaining about these pirates who would come and raid on their coast. So pirates have been around for a very, very long time. So the question is then also this: so which pirates do you guys all know? So I mean, I guess the first clear choice is Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean, famous and infamous. But there are other pirates who are from popular culture who are very well known. From your parents' generation, if you know of Long John Silver, who was the main character pirate in Treasure Island, which is a classic novel from literature. And then in your great-grandparents' generation in film, there was Errol Flynn, who was an Australian actor who worked in Hollywood, who played a lot of roles, amongst which were pirates. And he was known for being this he sort of created that swashbuckling very daring, adventurous, romantic image of a pirate. So these are three very famous pirates from popular culture. Now the question is, moving closer to India, who is the most famous Indian pirate? And I mean, because India is was really mainly the geography plays a big part in this. The Caribbean, because it was a lot of small islands, there's a lot of space for operation. Now, India is a geographical, cone. So basically, a lot of the stuff was happening inland. There was not so much focus on the maritime activity, except for the trade back and forth. So we don't know so much about who are the Indian pirates and how do they operate. The first and foremost Indian pirate is Kanoji Angre, okay, who lived in the 17th to 18th century. But get this, he was not a pirate. Okay, Kanoji Angre was the admiral of the Maratha fleet. Okay, and he would go to war with his navy against the European nations. But because he would raid the European ships, the European nations called him a pirate, you see. So then that's how then he sort of came down into history. He's considered a pirate. He wasn't a pirate at all. And again, it's that term is, what is a pirate? I mean, he's actually the admiral of the navy of the Maratha fleet, but he's considered a pirate. So the term is also slightly flexible. So that's the thing. Kanoji Angre is, and I think there's a picture that you have. Kanoji Angre inspires the main pirate character in my book, which is Captain Angry. So you'll see the pirates in my book are all inspired from real life pirates. So Captain Angry is Kanoji Angre. So there's this little play on the words, which was really fun for me to write, at least. So you'll be able to see all that. So in the process of writing and researching Upan Leela, Lost in the Caribbean Sea, there's a lot of really interesting things I discovered about pirates, which I didn't know before. So that's how for me, it was a discovery. These are things that are known if you look a little at pirates. The first and most interesting thing to me was that pirates are democratic. Okay, they were democratic units and outfits. Now, why is this? It's because because the popular image is pirates are these dirty, they don't talk very well. They fight amongst each other. They fight against everyone. They're very rowdy and rude. That may have been true, but they worked democratically. Basically, the captain was elected. The second in command, who's called the quartermaster, was also elected. And the captain didn't decide for everyone. The crew decided. So the captain couldn't go take the ship. The crew decided, where will we travel to? Where do we raid? Do we go and raid this village? Do we go and steal from this ship? Now, the reason why this happened is because of all the trade that was going on. There were a lot of merchant ships and European merchant ships and navies that were forcing a lot of people into their service, what's called press ganged or Shanghaied even. Shanghai is also a verb, which is based on the city, where people were just forced to join the Navy. And so then conditions on these ships were extremely difficult. Working as a sailor, often you were overworked, you were underpaid, there was illness, you were beaten because the captain was a dictator on the ship. Basically, he had free reign to do whatever he wanted. So a lot of these people were forced into this servitude as sailors. So when pirates would come and board the ships, they'd offer to the sailors, do you want to join our crew? And a lot of the time, the sailors were like, yes, thank you very much, because life as a sailor was really quite bad. And they knew that if they joined the pirates, they would join a democratic crew. They already had maritime skills on how to sail a ship. They were like, this is something I can join this crew. They're going to take care of me. We're going to be like a band of friends or brothers, and no one will force me to do what I don't want to do. So that's why democracy reigned amongst the pirates. So another cool thing that I found out was about the eye patch. Now, pirates are known to wear an eye patch, Sometimes it was because of bodily injury, because a lot in the profession, they were fighting for their profession as well. But the eye patch was also used for day and night vision. Now, what happens is on top of the ship, it's broad daylight, but the minute you step down into the lower decks, it's really quite dark. And it takes a couple of minutes for your daylight vision to adjust to your night vision, you see? Now, that when you're on your ship is no problem. But when you're boarding a ship and you're fighting, then it becomes an issue. So the theory is that when pirates would board a ship, they would wear an eye patch so they could fight on deck with one eye. And then when the fighting moves below deck, they switch the eye patch to the other eye so that this eye is ready to fight immediately. Otherwise, while you're adjusting to the vision, of course, you're temporarily blind. So I thought this was a cool thing that was not so widely known about eye patches. Another cool thing was who are the successful pirates? Pirating was a very difficult profession. Most pirates, they were criminals. A lot of them, ended up in prison or worse. Very few of them actually made it, meaning got a big booty and then managed to retire. The most successful pirate in history is the pirate queen. Okay, it's a woman. It's Qing Shi, who was a Chinese pirate. She operated in the 19th century, and she commanded a fleet of 400 ships, at least. Estimates also put it at about 1,500, but let's say 400 ships. She had 400 ships. She commanded 20 to 40,000 men. And basically, she was in opposition to the Chinese government at the time, where she was such a problem for them that eventually the Chinese government decided to negotiate with her. They said, look, we can't resolve this. They negotiated with her. So she retired and she opened a gambling house and she lived a long and peaceful life after that. So for all these things, she's considered the most successful pirate of all time. And you can see her as a character in Pirates of the Caribbean as well. You can see her as a character in my book in the role of the character of Mehua, who was the second in command of sorts to Captain Angry. So these were some of the fun things. The last thing I want to talk to you about in terms of fun facts is, what is it with the pirate accent? You see, because the pirate accent, we all know what it sounds like now, but there was a time when it didn't exist. The fact is, pirates came from everywhere. The crews were often from different cultures. They spoke different languages, so there was no one pirate accent. In fact, what the pirate accent was thought to sound like, the 1930s was kind of like this. It was Errol Flynn, in fact, the actor I mentioned before, in a variety of films. And I think now this all changed in 1950. In 1950, Disney produced a film of the film adaptation of Treasure Island, which I mentioned before, with the actor Robert Newton playing Long John Silver. And in the creation of the role, Robert Newton used the accent from the southwest of England, right? From that area, which is a particular accent. And since that time, that is what has been the pirate accent. People just go, so when you go like, "Arr, shiver me timbers," and "landlubbers," Robert Newton created that accent, and that has just stuck. Now this is what pirates sound like, although it's not. Right. So that's the thing with the pirate accent. There's no actual pirate accent, but this is why everyone likes to talk like this. When you talk like pirate, you go "arr," So yeah. So then just touching back on the historical inspirations for the pirate characters in my book. So it sounds like all of that's not historically true. So then just touching upon again the historical inspiration for the pirates in my book. Basically, there's Captain Angry, who's inspired from Kanoji Angre. There's Mehua, who's inspired by Qing Shi, the Chinese pirate. But the rest of the crew, if you read the book, get into the story, there's characters inspired by Barbarossa, the Turkish pirate, by Black Caesar, who was an African pirate, Jean Lafitte, who was a French pirate, Edward Lowe, Black Bart, François Lelaumet, Annie Bonny, William Kidd. So, and these were all from many, many different nations, as you'll find out. So then, just talking a little bit about the origin of the book, how did I come up with the idea? Basically, there were two ideas. Since there's been some curiosity about how I actually write as a writer, basically I carry a notebook, or well, now it's digital, but I used to carry a notebook where I used to jot down any idea that comes to me, whether it's a line, a character, a scene, a theme, anything really that seems like an interesting idea. And I just write it down in my book. And over the span of time, some of these ideas stay with me. And because they stay with me in this way, I know that there's something about it that will work for me. And two of these ideas over time came together. It was a magic snow globe, which in the book is a particular element, and the idea of 99 wish candies, right? So these two ideas started and came together and took the form of this, of the book. They were the central, structural element. And then in terms of creating the characters that would carry the story and these elements, what suggested itself to me, since I wanted to write a children's book and there was a 99 wish candy, was to have these two siblings, so a brother and sister, Oop and Leela. And the thing is, I've been wanting for some time to write something about siblings, about two siblings, because when you have many more characters, if there's more brothers and sisters or a group of several friends, there's a lot of different character interactions you can create a lot of different things. Whereas I wanted to keep it very clear about just these two siblings, just brother and sister, and to play between the two of them. Because when you get in closer, there's a greater intimacy, and I really wanted to explore that dynamic between a brother and sister. So now, in conclusion, I just thought it might be fun to read a little bit, read a page from the book here. So it's a small passage from Escape from Bombazine Bay. Come on, me frumpins, into the sky and see. Oop watched in horror as the captain jovially kicked one howling pirate out through the hole in the wall. No, no, Oop screamed, terrified, as the captain walked up to the edge. They both looked out and down, and the view stunned Oop to silence. The sheer wall ran straight down to the sea, where a couple of the pirates were already bobbing and swimming out. The rain had intensified, becoming a hard, cold shower slanting from the wind. Captain Angry and Mehua were the last two, turning to the door as the viceroy sputtered to his shaking feet, helped up by the pallid, brutish officers. Ah, Horning Pod, so close, so close. Looks like your excellency has failed to catch me yet again. He squinted at the viceroy, hacked out a laugh. Looks like you failed to keep your knickers clean too. Horning Pod let out a howl of fury and shame as the captain bit down on his pipe and bowed extravagantly. Until next time, your excremency. Wait, Oop babbled, and the two pirates jumped. They hurtled through the black and wet, and Oop didn't know who shrieked louder, him or Leela, all the long way down to... The four of them hit the cold water hard, feet first, and Oop was flung loose, arms flailing, not knowing which way was up or left in this black, silty world. A hand grabbed him by the elbow. A powerful arm came around his chest, and suddenly he broke the surface, thanks to Captain Angry, who held him up. Oop sputtered and yelled, shocked and bewildered, as he tried to get his bearings. Leela, he squawked. Where's Leela? Oop, he heard her cry, and he turned his head to see the plum-blossom widow swimming strongly away from the sea dungeon. Leela crouched on her back like a wet cat. Hold on, boy, the captain shouted over the din of the rain and began kicking. Oop did, for dear life. So that's the small passage from Oop and Leela Lost in the Caribbean Sea. I hope you enjoyed it.
Awesome. I guess this has been one of the best sessions, is because not many. I don't know. I shouldn't be putting it this way, but bluntly, yes, not many authors are great illustrators. I think you're a combination of both. And when you were reading, I actually, I was just looking at it. I'm like, why doesn't he read a little more for me to hear it out? So yeah, I'm sure that if you can come up with an audio series of this, that would be fun. That would be fun for people like me. Honestly, I'm more of a listener than a reader. So when I drive, I normally listen to some book. I would love to hear it in your own voice. You don't have to hire anybody for that sake. Right? Awesome. And I was so thoroughly enjoying the way you spoke and the information you shared. In fact, the eye patch. When I think of a pirate, of course, the eye patch is one of the things that comes to your mind. Even when you draw a pirate, that's what you draw. But I never knew there's a purpose for it. There's a scientific reason for it. And I'm sure everybody who's watched this interview, who's watched this video, will go ahead and flaunt with their friends, saying, "Do you know why the pirates actually wear an eye patch?" And the second thing is, kudos to all the women out there. The biggest pirate in the history was actually a lady. I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Over so many thousands of people is awesome. And I'm sure the imagination and the way the setting that you have put across in this book is super awesome. It's going to make the audience glue to the book and complete it probably in 2 sittings. All right. So with that, Oliver, amazing. It was fun talking to you. It was cool. And next time, anytime I watch Three Idiots or any other movie where you are there, I will remember of this, and anybody who's watching this will remember.
Oh my God! Hey! चप्पियाँ भाई $300 के शूज है पुदीने की चप्पियाँ भाई $300 शूज
भाभी फ्री एडवाइस से लेना चलो नहीं तो जाने दो
genuine Italian leather and stitch
सुहास is the change man. अब वो ब्रांड्स और प्राइसेस की बिल्कुल बात नहीं करता.
मेरी देर रात शर्मानी अरे चट्टी क्यों खाते हो तुम लोग
मैं कुछ करता हूँ सर
क्या करोगे
सर हमारी लॉन्ड्री में रोज ऐसी चट्टी वाली शेरवानी आती है सर मैं 2 मिनट में क्लीन कर दूंगा सर 1 मिनट सर
Get it started!
वहाँ फेरे कौन ले रहा है
फेरे
और फेरे हो गए तो हमारी शादी हो जाएगी housekeeping.
This is the concluding message. Most of our target audience in this are school students. So one concluding message from your side, inspiring them to become authors.
Oh wow! Just love stories. Just love stories. Love reading them. Love watching them. Love creating them. That's all it boils down to, really. And if you've got that love, it'll carry you through anything. Whether you do a formal writing course, or whether you do it on your own, or whether you become an apprentice to another author, you just have to love stories. That's where it all begins.
Awesome. All right, so it was fun talking to you. It was amazing. And thank you so much for pulling out time from your busy schedule and sharing the info and reading the book. I'm sure everybody watching this is gonna grab a copy of their own. I'm gonna order it right away, and it's available on Amazon, right? And on other sites as well.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Amazon and Ashit. Yes.
All right, and probably this is the book that's appearing on the screen that he's talking about. Go grab your copy and have fun. All right. Thanks, Oliver.
Thank you. Take care, guys, and well, if you do pick up the book, happy reading, and otherwise keep reading and writing for those of you who are interested to go down that track. Bye-bye.
Awesome. All right, thanks. All right, so that was Oliver Lafont all the way from Paris, and yeah, he could not join us for the live session, so he was kind enough to go ahead and do an interview with me, right? So I hope a lot of you who watched that had a lot of fun and a lot of information that you could learn from. Well, at 3:30, we'll be starting with the next author, who is Devashish Makhija. He is a well-known personality in the Indian cinema as well as in the writing. So stay tuned. Next 15 minutes, there'll be a short break, and we'll start exactly at 3:30. For people who are a part of Udaan, do not miss to get your certificates of Udaan. Click the link below and get your certificates done. I'll see you at 3:30, and